Hey guys, I'm James, your host of the Can of Hope podcast, episode 1. We have our first guest here, Ryan. Ryan, thanks for joining us. And so, the purpose of this episode is really to kind of create support systems for people
Okay.
who are struggling with the various forms of homelessness, addiction, stagnant living. Our theme of the episode is challenge, and the theme overall for the show is challenge, inspire, mentor. And so, you know, I'd like to take just a quick moment to go into detail about, who you are and how we met. Do you mind just sharing us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Um, well, my name is Ryan. I'm from Colorado. Been living here basically my whole life. Um, uh, I was born in Columbus, Ohio. Never mind all that. Just kind of, you know, had a job, screwed it up. Had another job opportunity, didn't get it, ran out of money. Have always had emotional issues. It's not just trying to tell you that it's only just like I'm responsible and something went wrong. I mean, a lot of things probably went wrong with me, and now I'm somehow settling for this. I guess I don't have a career. I don't have any kids yet. Don't have no obligations. And I don't have anybody to report to, so kind of just I don't know. I don't know why I'm homeless. Feels like I want a job and I would be willing to work, but I kind of need to get like an interview going or
Right.
something. So I
And the hope is that this is the first step, like we don't know each other. I moved to Fort Collins in 2021, and since I opened my business, I've been around Old Town Square. I've seen you, a few times, and I just genuinely thought that I saw some potential in you. I literally have been in your spot, and even when I first moved to Fort Collins, the company that I worked for, when I quit, I had emotional distress, and I literally spent a couple days just sitting right there out on the square just getting drunk, just washing my feelings away in a bottle. So like I literally have quite literally been right where you are, and I see potential in you. And so that's the reason why I wanted to extend this offer. I'm honored that you took me up. I just want to take a brief minute to acknowledge the amount of courage that it takes to present yourself on camera raw and uncut, and be able to be a source of inspiration for other people. And I know as we begin on this journey, we're going to see a lot of improvement. I'd love to have you come back on and be able to continue your story. Okay, we're here for you throughout the entire journey. Okay.
sure. Thank
Awesome.
you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. And so Ryan, I don't want to go into a lot of detail about it, but I know that you just mentioned a lot of emotional kind of trauma. Do you mind just kind of sharing a little bit about your family background? You said you were from Columbus, Ohio. How long have you been in Colorado?
We moved here when I was 2. I've also lived in Alaska for a short time in between
Oh, wow.
because see, my stepdad, I actually did not get to even know my biological dad because they got divorced when I was 2. I always called my stepdad my dad, and he had a son who was a hemophiliac. He had a tainted blood transfusion. He got HIV/AIDS. His son died when he was, I think, he was real young, about 20 years old. I should know how old my own brother was, but that was in the end of '97.
Right.
So we was here in Colorado, and before that, my dad wanted us to pack us up and move to Phoenix to be with his son, and my mom said no. So his son passed away. He didn't get to spend a lot of time with his actual son. So then after that, my dad wanted to move to Alaska, and so my mom was down with that because she wasn't going to say no to that, and she was going to help him pursue his dreams to become an aviator, and he ultimately did get his A&P license and become a commercial pilot. Not on anything crazy, not on any big jets, but he flew a lot of planes, biplanes, and float planes. Um, I can't ever remember him flying a jet, so I don't.
Right.
But and there's anyway. So we were in Alaska for about 4 years. Lived in Ketchikan.
And if you don't mind me asking, where is that like in relation to Anchorage or Fairbanks?
Ketchikan is on the very southern tip of the Panhandle, so it's as close to Washington State as you can get. It's still hundreds of miles from Washington. What I'm saying is the very, very tip on Revillagigedo Island, which is the rainiest point in North America. So
Wow.
you get, on average, about twice as much rain as Seattle as they do in Ketchikan. So Anchorage is about kind of halfway middle up the state, still about 1,000 miles away. Juneau was a plane ride away. So yeah, so yada yada yada. Like basically, I mess with my dad a lot because he joined the army, he dropped out, he went to prison, he got deferred and kicked out of there too. Like, I don't know. My dad was a lot of things. I kind of see that about myself. I'm kind of a giver upper, like get a lot of great ideas started and have a lot of,
Follow through can be hard for everyone, man. So don't beat yourself up. And
Sure.
when you're talking about your dad, you're really talking about your stepdad.
Yeah.
And so, did he ever adopt you and make it formal, or?
No. There, we just didn't. Yeah. So, nuh-uh. Nope. But I kind of wish he would, because he got a cool last name. His name's Rick Weiler. So
Okay.
yeah, he's
Very cool.
And he looks very German. He's got a pointy nose and kind of high cheekbones, and I just think the name Rick Weiler is so great. Like it's about the most German name you can get is Weiler.
Is it?
I don't know. Rottweilers are German.
Oh.
A German breed. I don't get too nervous, but maybe people doxing me. But I don't have nothing to take. But it's just in case I ever get rich one day. They're gonna dox me because they knew I lived in Ketchikan. Anyway,
That's pretty incredible that you lived in Alaska for a while. Have you ever watched that movie Into the Wild about Chris McCandless and Alexander Supertramp?
No.
So,
But I've heard about what it is. I think I read like part of the book when I was younger. It's actually a big fat book, but it's what a dream, but when you're gonna do that, you need to know survival skills,
right.
your basics, and how not to panic, how to find food and water, and how to avoid getting sick. And so he didn't have none of that, I don't believe, and he was just kind of wanting to go seek some freedom.
Yeah, his demise was pretty tragic. But what was
he
kind
was
of
pretty young, so that's why he was just ignorant of all the dangers.
exactly, and like honestly, what kind of spurred, his journeys was a tense relationship with his father. It's a common theme among people who are struggling and who find themselves out on the streets is that they had a rough relationship with their father. I personally experienced that myself. And it can be hard to touch on, so I appreciate you just kind of sharing that, and we don't have to go into extreme detail. We're not focused on the past, we're not focused on what happened, we're focused on solutions in the future. So that's the point of this. And and for the viewers who don't know, Ryan actually came by 2 nights ago and shot the first episode, and we had technical difficulties, as you could possibly imagine for a first episode. And so I went to editing last night and could not locate the video file for camera 1, and Ryan was gracious enough to join us again, so really much kudos to being able to be a part of this.
Absolutely.
And like I said, the theme of this show is challenge, inspire, mentor. So the hope is to have people who are in positions to where they're ready to accept help, and then find people who have either through support or self-resolution have pulled themselves out of the circumstances that they've been in. I proudly call myself a self-resolved member of the homeless community. I moved to Colorado in 2019, 3 weeks before the pandemic hit global news, and I was just like a lot of people that moved to Colorado on a Greyhound bus, I just wanted a hope for a better life. You know, I was tired of feeling like a criminal for consuming marijuana in a state where it was illegal. And then now that I've came here, I'm a medical patient because of the disorders that I suffer from. And so, you know, I just was coming here for a better life. I had a job interview lined up, but nothing guaranteed. It was November, and it's been a very long journey, a lot of hard work, but I've gotten myself to the point where not only am I just proud of myself for all that I've accomplished, but I really truly want to work the 12th step and be a service to others who are suffering. So that's why I've started this mission of creating this podcast, and I'm right here with you. You know, this is a journey for me as well, and a way to help support my own strength and find a source of strength to keep my sobriety going. I'm at right under 3 years of sobriety, so I'm considered to be sustained sobriety, and then once you get to 5 years, you're fully recovered. So it's a journey for both of us, you know what I'm saying? And so we're not going to focus on the past, we're going to focus on solutions. But I do just want to kind of establish a baseline, because this isn't just to have talking points and be entertaining on the internet. This is about providing real solutions. So without going into too much details of like the in and outs, specifics of your life, but just kind of talk to me about what the day of life in Ryan looks like right now.
Well, I realize that I'm too smart to be out here on the street, and got too much potential. You know, like most of people on the street. Like I really think, you know, every now and then there's somebody who you think that guy's hopeless. You know, like you might die out here. I wouldn't put money on it, because I don't want to undermine value human life. But I'm saying, you know, for all intensive thinking, like you know, but a lot of people I see are not hopeless, I don't think. And me, I'm far from it. So it's actually, you know, can be a bit embarrassing, people asking you what the hell you're doing, and you're smarter than this and all this, and having so many people tell you that, you know. I'm saying it's good that you found me for the first episode, because me and my friends were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, he has done no episode, as you can imagine, you know. I'm like, okay, so I want to be one. So it is kind of a little bit of risk, and it feels like that in that regard. But I know that you're cool now, and I'm not too focused on that or thinking about it at all. Not that I was, but I'm saying that, you know, also, like, the other guests that you get in the future aren't going to be able to, you know, focus and, you know, kind of maintain a kind of real, as nice conversation as I am. I think maybe not all of them, you know, people are smarter than you think, but like, you know, a lot of my counterparts being on the streets, you know, I don't know, I'm sitting there talking to somebody the other day, and he picks up a stick and starts batting rocks at cars. So I excuse myself, for instance.
Right, for sure.
Definitely not. I'm gonna clean up and come here and be not too inebriated or out of their mind to have a conversation. I'm just saying that.
You know, honestly, I agree with you. You know, it's interesting, because you'll see someone and you really do wonder, like, how did it get this mismanaged? And then you have a conversation with them, and they're surprisingly coherent.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like almost as like, is there some sort of voice in their head that's kind of like, it's just intrusive thoughts, you know, not like a voice in your head like you're hearing things, but like, or what are these intrusive thoughts? Like, what type of emotion? It's the emotional state, because you can ask them a question that, and then they'll give you a strikingly coherent answer, and it's just kind of almost takes you back, you know. And I saw a lot of potential in you, but I do have plans because this is all about outreach. So some things that's happened since we met on Monday is I attended the first city council workshop for the city of Fort Collins.
Yeah.
I had reached out just by email to the director of parks. I believe it was actually you that had told me about how in Fort Collins there's like a new population of homeless that have kind of drifted into town, and the previous already existing population is kind of having static, because there's, you know, it's just competition for limited resources. You know.
And there's that, and you wonder about the future, like excuse me, Boulder didn't used to have so many homeless,
Right.
but then the early 2000s, and then after the housing bubble hit, like
Right.
all this, now you have tent cities in Boulder.
And Fort Collins is not like that yet.
No, it's not.
Right.
And the only reason I can think why is because it's absolutely locked down here. You're not gonna find an outlet. You're not gonna find a spot to lay down in the grass without being bugged by security. You're not gonna find a spot anywhere. I don't care how hard you look to erect a tent. Now you can do that, and people do nightly, but you you know I'm trying to I'm trying to make sense here. I just said that you're not going to find a tent spot, and then people do it nightly. I mean, the amount of resources that it takes to keep yourself going is a lot. So hard that I'm saying,
What I took from the city council workshop that I went to on Tuesday night, I was invited to it by one of the local city officials that I'd reached out to by email. Because if I'm going to be doing outreach, I initially reached out to the Fort Collins police because there is an inherent danger in doing outreach with disenfranchised members of the community. So I wanted to make sure that I was protected and that I followed city protocol. And so I'm going to be meeting with, I told you off camera, Fort Collins has just recently formed what they call the HOPE team, homeless outreach and proactive involvement or engagement. And so there's a sergeant within the force that runs this task force, and it just started in the spring. So I'm going to be meeting with her, the director of parks, who the reason why I reached out to him is because I hear about this political landscape about how there's one population and another subset of the population, and they're kind of ecstatic with each other because Fort Collins really is not a place where it's going to ever allow there to be tent cities or things like that. We do not only care about our community and those that are in a position of needing support, but we also care about the livability of the city as a whole. I mean, Fort Collins is consistently ranked some of the best, one of the best cities in America to live in, and that's very true. And so that's another portion of me wanting to start this, is to be able to kind of
maybe like
create creative and effective solutions to upstream and prevent reoccurrence.
yeah, and also I was gonna say maybe stop the ugly future of having rampant homelessness all over the city. But
This is a side point. The apartment that I live in Fort Collins has been under a historic restoration for a while now. It's a historic property, and so last year I spent a lot of time in Boulder. I was earning my real estate license, so I was doing a lot of my education. And you're right. I mean, Boulder, and this is not to talk bad about the city, but you can notice a difference. And Fort Collins can really stand as a model for the rest of the country on how we can create
that would be-
solutions.
yeah.
And wouldn't it be such an honor for Fort Collins to be able to do that, and then to not only have done that, but it been members of the community that self-resolved themselves and then gave back to others as inspiration, because it's a snowball effect. One person becomes two, two becomes four, four becomes eight, eight becomes 16, and the next thing you know, the 1,500 people that we have around the city that are experiencing homelessness, they can receive the support that they need to get themselves out. And it's not just by providing them with vouchers, because it's a lot deeper than vouchers. If your mind isn't right, and it's great, you can have retained housing for 6 months, and that's a nice statistic that looks good on paper. But what happens 12, 18, 24 months down the road? You know what I mean? And it's all about keeping your mind right. So that's a big side theme of this, is going to be just learning how to be more stoic, how to identify the feelings that you have in the moment, and learn how to implement certain support systems to keep yourself, which is why I really do want to invite you to join our Can of Hope podcast Facebook page. I know you have a phone, so anytime you're in a moment of distress, I post on here regularly, and it's purely inspirational. And as our page grows, the content will get more rich. So, I don't want to focus, like I said, on the specifics of your day in a life, but I do know that you had admitted to me, kind of just like your desire to, and we live in Colorado, so it's understandable, but just kind of touch on your marijuana usage, because it's really the only thing that you do, correct? You know what I mean? You might have a drink every now and
Well,
again, which is nothing
as
wrong
far as
with that.
drugs and alcohol, yeah,
Right.
I don't do drugs or alcohol. I have a drink, but I don't consider that to be a problem.
You're
You
not
know?
down in a fifth of vodka a day.
Yeah, my drug of choice is actually meth, so I haven't actually used that in since August 2010. So I guess it's been just over 13 years that I've been clean. But like I
Well,
said, I'm not,
congratulations.
thank you, but
Yeah.
I'm not counting days or even years anymore. I'm not even really thinking about it when August 10th rolls around, which is a day that I moved away in 2010,
Okay.
and I'm just just thanks for saying thank you because I feel like sometimes on the street with like people who are drunk, you'll say that, and then all you've really done is bring up meth use, and they'll say, "Well, I do it some or this and that," or they'll come back and ask you for it. So I can't even really tell anybody I'm sober or I ever did it or anything. And it's even more insulting when people don't believe you, and you're like, "Yeah, no, I look like crap. I'm out here panhandling because I'm too shy to go get a job, and you're all pegging me for like some asshole junkie, like who's gonna like I don't know, accost you or something. Like I'm just saying. I wanted to go back and because when you said that, I reminded of that. Your first question was to your first question was asking me what my daily routine was. Well, mine's easier. Mine's not gonna be like a lot of people because I'm young, I'm pretty smart, and I'm pretty good looking. So not that that's not all that superficial crap matters, but I'm saying I move around. I can see danger. I can read people a little bit. Other people are not going to be so lucky, and they'll
Right.
pass out in
Intuitive.
stairwells and beg every single person that comes by for money. And you don't always know like how people are going to react when you're panhandling. Like you know, you know, people don't like panhandlers. So it's I'm not. I basically sometimes I sit there and I don't do it until I start feeling the desperation. Like I
Right.
showed up to be desperate, but then I sat down and wasn't quite desperate enough to ask. And then as time will go by, and I'll think, this is ridiculous. One of these people probably is going to be a little bit nice to me, and so you just ask politely,
Right.
and then somebody around here inevitably will come and give you some money.
And that's how we actually first made contact.
That's right. I kind of remember that. And
Yeah.
like a lot of people come up to me and they're like, "Hey man, how you doing?" But like it's kind of like being like kind of like an airport ticket person. Like I see like 1,000 people. Like I can't even remember it.
Right.
So you had to come up to me a few times, and other people. Because the thing about it that's disappointing is I'm genuinely good with faces and names. I can have a pretty impeccable memory. I like to say impeccable, and like just maybe not as of late. I'm saying I have a pretty good memory, but I can't remember everybody. I'm talking about.
What I do want to just, as we've been talking about this, it just reminded me, and I think this is kind of actually funny. And a lot of people on the street have really good negotiation and sales skills and persuasion skills. And what I think is so interesting is when I first approached you, when you asked me for money, and I told you that I really can't help you in that sense, but I do have a solution and something in mind and an idea that I wanted to share with you. What I loved is that when because I am just so everyone understands that I do compensate participants for their time, and as just truly a gesture of trying to think of ways to help people have creative ways of gaining income. I even offer equity for participating videos that get published. And what I love about Ryan is when I told him the percent of equity that I was going to give him in the video, he haggled with me. And I love that. I love that you haggled with me because you have sales skills, you have people skills, like you have persuasion skills.
Thanks.
I can tell that you have a clear mind. What it is you beat yourself up. And I've been there, man. I've been that guy that like doesn't feel like he can talk to anyone. And so he's just sitting out on the street corner talking to himself because he desperately wants to fix the problems within himself. He just doesn't know where to begin.
Sometimes, yeah.
And
well put.
like
Yeah.
I've been there. I have overcame it and it made me jaded. you know. And so another just personal aspect of the show for me is to try to soften my own heart, because there are people like people is Fort Collins is so small that people notice you even if you don't recognize that they
Right,
notice
right.
you. They
And
see you.
there's quite a few. There's probably, I imagine, a few thousand locals that buy me that recognize me, but I still kind of like, oh, I can't believe this lady's walked by me a dozen times and I still can't remember her, which is nice because then I don't have to ask as many people. 'Cause I know
Right.
they're not going to give. But then there's the people who are staying at the hotel who look like they might give, who's. Anyway, I'm just saying, yeah, there's.
And
I've lost my train of thought.
you're okay. And I say that because it's interesting. Like in the city, you can tell people who are like kind of your fan. You know, they don't know you. You've never
Sure.
really interacted,
Oh,
but you
sure.
can tell
As
they
far
look
as
at you in a positive
panhandling,
light.
yeah.
And
As
then
far as being right there on the sidewalk and kind of being absolutely, because, um, the only thing that got saved me from becoming jaded, I would say, is that I kind of used to ignore vagrants a lot too. Don't get me wrong, dude. I given plenty of money to other um, homeless people back when I had a job, and one time I think I gave this guy $40. I definitely gave him at least a $20 bill, but saying for the most part, or I don't know, maybe about half of the time with me, I just ignored vagrants. I like don't. It would be like, well, don't. I don't have to talk to you. I knew you were gonna talk to me when I was approaching you 30 feet away. I don't have. And
Right.
so people who ignore me, and the good thing is that if you're not rude, like I can't stand it when rude people sit next to me, my friends, because you'll ask them and then they won't ignore you. And one of my friend, he talks shit as they walk off out of earshot to people who wasn't polite, and polite enough to give, you know.
And
I'm
they'll
like,
never
and
give
I'm
at
like,
that point.
well, that's not like I'm not really about negativity, regardless of whether or not they're gonna give. But also, like, I would ignore me too. So this is stupid. But on top of that, a few times the people have turned around and come back. One time, a guy came back with $40, and he said, "Since you asked so nicely,"
Right.
because he just ignored me, and I just, and then he came back a couple minutes later with $40.
Right.
Since you asked so nice. So like, I get it, and I get like, not me, like I said, like I'm trying to be unobtrusive, but that's, if I can do this and make all that, then you're wondering how appropriate of a candidate I am, even for like this show, like, because if I can do all that, then I could be able to get a job. And there's homeless that aren't on drugs and alcohol, and that don't last very long. So now that I'm not, now that I'm out here, I don't know what to say. It feels like, what I want to say is, part of me feels like some people are gonna be disappointed that they're helping somebody who's fairly smart. So I kind
Right.
of act a little stupid, like, sorry to disappoint you. I know you thought I was some poor, you know, um,
What-
ignoramus, or even like mentally handicapped, or just somebody who's uneducated or whatever. So they thought I was.
Right.
And
What
it feels kind of bad.
what you feel like you're having to do is you're having to play a role.
A little bit, but
A role that
I
you-
don't like. I like I'll be like, hey, like, can you please spare like anything at all, please? And they're like, and then like but after that, if they want to talk to me, I don't really bullshit people, because you could make friends, and I don't like lying. It's not necessary. I mean, no, they'll give to normal people. I'm just saying, like, I'm saying about making myself seem needy.
Right.
Because you got to do that. Because I shit you not, James. If you go down to Panhandle looking nice, you probably won't make much at all. Like, the days after I get my hair cut, it's frustrating because my hair looks good, and I notice, like, drastically only less than $10, which I'm not complaining about. I'm very grateful for every dollar everybody's helped me with. But other days, I'd say on average, if you panhandle in downtown Fort Collins, I don't know if I should say this, but between 6 and 8 hours, you can make about $30 to $40 on average. But if you look nice, you'll make much less.
Of course.
Or if you're rude or really mean to people, obviously.
Right.
But enough about all that. Like, yeah, thanks for letting me say all that, dude. Because I'm also like, learning through my homelessness, which my homelessness has been panhandling, which is funny because before I almost thought virtually all homeless people begged for money. That's just, but there's a hell of a lot more homeless people than I thought there was, and people who don't even come out. Like a couple friends of mine, and one of them has never done me any wrong. Is a great person. Basically, never asked me for anything.
Right.
Like I genuinely felt like that guy. You know, but I'm saying this group of friends, and so are his buddies, but they do drugs or whatever. So I can't. I mean, I just literally cannot like put up with this obnoxiousness too long. Just, but I mean, as far as being good people, they're good to me. But they stay in their hidey hole under this one bridge down in a certain area, and like virtually almost don't come out. And I see him riding around I see one of the guys riding around on his bicycle, and he stops in to get cigarettes, anything he can find, digs in trash cans, and he puts it all in his. So there's people that are really, doing doing the self-harm thing, doing the antisocial thing, whether or not they want to, they're hiding away, and like I don't want to hide away. So not only that, but I need money, and so at first, let me tell you, like right now I'm used to it, and that might be bad news, might be a little bit good news too, because at first, dude, the first time I ever did it, I sat there and I wrote thank you on a cardboard sign, just the words thank you, and like I didn't make anything, and I gave up. And then I came back another day, and again I gave up like a child, like figure out what you want to do. And then I just got desperate enough that I thought, like, dude, I'm gonna go, like, I hate to say it, but I don't think this society wants me going around doing anything crazy, so I'm just gonna sit here and ask and just piss people off and ask for money. And I did it, and it worked. And the first person to ever give me anything, I'll remember, because there's shock that it worked.
Right.
It's a hard sell.
Yeah.
It's not the hardest sell of all time. You're selling your neediness. You're selling the opportunity for you to help somebody. Recognize that homelessness exists. But I'm trying to get you to give me money for nothing. And
Yeah.
you think I'm probably going to spend it on drugs. It's a hard sell. So the first time it ever worked, I was kind of, okay, she's giving me money.
Right.
But she gave me $2, and she said, "Smile, it looks better on you," or "Smile, it looks good on you." And I'm always great. She said that.
That's awesome, man.
I'm grateful that I have that memory. She said, "Smile, it looks good on you," and also like I'm glad that it was that, because like because me being white and just I look fine, and she's like probably thugging to make her money, or I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to make no assumptions.
Right.
But,
You're just grateful
for her to give me that, dude. Like,
Yeah.
and
And like
even though she's like probably gangbanging,
that
I
was
was like, dude, that was so nice.
that
dude.
was really my point. In Fort Collins, it's such a small town that you will, if you pay attention, you'll notice that you have fans out here, and then you have some haters. But
I got a hater.
But
Yeah,
you know
I don't
what?
want to talk about
The
Sorry,
haters,
James. Yeah.
the haters are just there to motivate you. That's
Thanks.
all it is, man. You
Thanks.
don't focus on the
And
trees,
funny
focus
thing,
on the snow.
Something about this person, that's me and him, whatever. I don't, I sit Indian style, and I've never gotten up to say anything. I'm not ever going to. I don't want to, stir up anything, but he likes to flip me off, and sometimes I talk shit back to him, I guess. We're just, he don't like, yeah, so, but the kind of, the little blessing with that is that before that, even though I've been doing this for about a year and a half, almost every day, whenever I need money. So
Right.
I kind of have to do it every day to need money. I can't do it all and make a whole lot of money at once. Anyway, I've been doing this for about a year and a half, the panhandling, and the blessing with this guy coming and telling me, he walked up and he basically, in the end, he said, "Well, I just think you're a piece of shit." And like, for a second, I took the high road. I said, "Thank you." And he
Right.
walked off, and then as he walked off, I said, "Hey, by the way, I could." So I'm sorry.
Just couldn't
I
help
wish
it.
I had taken the high road, kept it. Thank you. But I'm saying, in the days before that, leading up to that, I, for some reason, started being resentful because I felt like people were talking about me because they wouldn't, they probably are. But I'm saying, like, it just started to bug me, and like the paranoia about it was
Right.
bugging me, and so I was talking to myself like, yeah, fucking assholes will walk off. They won't say shit to my face.
Right.
And him saying that to my face, I respect that. But I also would much prefer if they just said it to themselves.
You gotta.
I learned. I really don't like it to my face.
Right. Well, it's all just a test, man. Every single day, every person gets tested with things. You get a chance and a choice.
I know, right? It's the test after the test.
Right.
When the first test turns out to be the pre-test, you're like, but,
Yeah.
you're like, I was already down and out.
Yeah.
And now here we are. When it rains, it pours. Like, I was already annoyed, and now here comes more annoyance.
Right.
And now this guy literally the other day was having a bad day, then some annoyance, then didn't make any money, and then this asshole at the gas station who basically kind of tried to rip me off or hustle me a little bit, and then basically said, because I yoinked my card out of his hand. I don't, whichever, I feel like I'm justifying myself here. I just wanted these. Okay, I'll take that back, and I started walking off. And then later on, if you ever yank anything out of my hands ever again, I'll juice. This is totally violent threat. After a whole day, and dude, everything in me just wanted to take something, and just hit this guy. Almost everything in me. And so, drugs and alcohol, they'll do you, because you'll think you'll be fine and this and that, and you'll avoid it, but it's when you're coming down or when you can't find it, and then it's been a bad day, and then this guy's messing with you for the second time, and that impulse, the drugs and alcohol kill that impulse, and you end up doing life in prison for something. And only meant to hurt the guy, assault the guy, but I just stared at him and was humiliated in the store in front of the people that know me, the clerks there know me and stuff, and I wasn't, if I said anything, they would have done something about it, but what was I?
It's great that
just on top of everything, the test after the test, and then just after that to just go mope around and beg for a cigarette, dude. It's fucking hard out here.
Well, look, man, the best thing is that you can identify those problems. You're identifying the test. If you don't know you're being tested, you're bound to fail.
Yeah, and I think the person who, I just want to hit on this, you might mean to assault somebody and that's end up killing them because, that I think happened to a friend of mine. Somebody stabbed him and it looked like.
And this is your friend from 6 weeks ago, right?
So.
Yeah. And I know that. It's a heavy topic, and I know I don't.
For sure.
Let's try to keep that all fair because I know it's going to cause some stress.
That's a good point too.
But one thing I wanted to share with you because I just think it's kind of funny. I take a lot of pride that I've never panhandled or checked into a homeless shelter, but I have a criminal history that's as long as my forearm, and I have spent plenty of cold nights sleeping out in the snow. And so, as much as I'm proud of that, I don't look down on anyone who's taken that route because it's a lot more noble just to ask for help than to victimize other people. So I really want to applaud you for that.
Thanks.
When I first started my journey out west and traveling out of Virginia, I was in a very toxic relationship. And we were supposed to move out to Colorado together. And I actually got stranded in Kentucky. Just some podunk town in Kentucky. No disrespect to Kentucky. But when I was there, I had just the most incredible, gracious people to help me get out of their town. So when I got left at a gas station with no wallet, no cell phone, my bags in the girl's trunk of her car. We had an argument about money, and I went to go stop at an ATM to prove that I had the money I said I had. And when I walked back out, she was gone. And I guess I live here now. That was the thought that I had. I guess I live here now. And so I slept outside underneath a piece of scrap carpet I found behind a Kroger grocery store, which is like King Soopers here. And the next morning I went right back to the gas station I got stranded at. And I told the store clerk that was there yesterday, the day before, I said, so I'm just going to go out and I'm going to go look for a job. Because what else do I have to do? And just taking that initiative, she actually spoke to a gentleman who's just a working class man out in Kentucky, and he actually gave her $160 to give me it was Christmas time. It was right before Christmas time. It was November when this happened. and he gave her $160 to buy me a Greyhound bus ticket to get back to Richmond. And when I was sitting there waiting for my Greyhound bus to arrive, there was it's so interesting in that section of Kentucky. Like if you're in jail, they'll release you to the bus station because the bus station goes like all throughout. And so there was like these three or four guys that had just gotten released out of jail, and one of the guys, his name, he went by Tommy the Cat. And like that area of Kentucky is tri-state, so it's Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky. And like he's like wanted in like all three states. But he told me the best sign to ever hold is happiness is a cheeseburger. You sit outside a Burger King or a McDonald's and you hold a sign, happiness is a cheeseburger, because you'll always be fed and you never know what people will put in that bag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like I've never had to ever hold a sign, but let things get bad, happiness is a cheeseburger. You know what I mean? And so like I still hold that. Like these, yeah, man, it's just these experiences. They build you and they mold you, and you never know where life is going to take you. So you just got to be grateful for the journey. Learn how to identify when you're in the middle of a test.
Yeah, dude. I don't want to say I'm good at begging, James.
You've learned how to survive.
Yeah.
You've learned how to survive. Which
and like yeah.
And we don't want to focus on the day-to-day because that's a struggle enough in itself. We want to focus on the solution. So like one really interesting thing that you shared with me a couple days ago, and we've had some conversations off camera, is that you actually are a person who have a lot of ideas. I mean, and some of them are like if you could get yourself to a point to pursue them, you have potential and actually making a contribution to society. I mean, share us a little bit about, like we spoke a couple nights ago about your YouTube channel idea, that really it's like you want, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of like almost want to play like a satire of the type of technical world that we've evolved ourselves into. So like tell us a little bit about that.
That's a theme that I want to use in some of my creative art that I do on my computer. And basically I'm making videos that display these little kind of pieces that are kind of really artistic or beautiful or inspiring, and just talking along through it to inspire things like culture and goodness and working together and
right,
self-sustainability, and in that regard, and part of the cool part is like the things that my art. So my name is Techlandia, which
right,
is a play on words, kind of, because we're living in a tech world, and the shore Portlandia is a thing. So I thought, I'm gonna make my name Techlandia, and the pieces of art that I do are kind of like funny little computers, kind of gadgets and kind of futuristic kind of some of them just concept pieces, but it kind of all pertains to, like, I'm not doing landscape paintings or things like that. I'm not only making digital art, but the art I'm making is little machines and computers and futuristic machines, right, and all kinds of. Maybe I thought I've had some really big ideas. I'm hoping to make that into reality. So that's going to be a challenge in a lot of ways, but I feel like as long as you do it for yourself, then everything else will come.
Right.
It's like, just like one of my favorite artists, Eminem, said, he wasn't doing that great with his raps, and so just getting signed on. He had a CD out that wasn't too, but then he started rapping and just saying what he wanted, and maybe kind of, in a way, kind of giving up, like kind of just being like, I'm gonna have fun with this, and then people heard that. They sent him to the Rap Olympics. He made it. He rapped, became second place, and Dr. Dre got his demo tape, and
right,
the rest is history, dude. Like, so if you do it for yourself, like, that's, like, the only person you have to impress in your life is yourself, and
exactly,
and the rest is history.
And like I said, we don't want to go dive deep into it, because I'm sure people even viewing this, a lot of people have tense relationships with their father, and it's like that's where that being too hard on yourself comes from. I don't know if you've ever heard that one comedian where he has a bit and he's like, you ever seen a guy get mad and he just flips out, he's stupid son of a bitch. That's his father talking to him. You know what I mean? And so you gotta just recognize that you are the only person that matters to you. You know, and like when I first moved to Colorado, and I I was very fortunate to have been able to land the job that I had the interview lined up for. But one day I woke up and I just recognized nobody is coming to save you, James. And genuinely, nobody cares if you fail either. It's on you to pull it out of yourself and start to care
It's
about
sad,
yourself.
dude. Yeah, it's sad
But
to
at the same
think that,
time, when you allow your life to get so mismanaged, everybody has their own struggles. And one of the hopes in this show is that we can start to build a bridge of compassion. Because, just as much as you're down and out, there's other people who are, you think that they've made it, but they're struggling too. And so, like, we need to build compassion between both ends of the spectrum within our community because we make up one community. Just because someone has money and someone doesn't mean that they don't belong to the same community. And we've lost sight of that. And it's understandable because people get jaded, people get cynical, people look at people and they say, well, this guy's not even trying. Why should I try? You know what I mean? And it just snowballs. And so this is the very first step of not only just finding it within yourself, to challenge yourself, to be better than your bad decisions, to be better than your past lives. Don't let them hold you down. God, and I promise in this show not to really make it about religion or politics, although I am a religious person, you got to recognize that God, He raises the sun on sinners and saints the same. Every day you're given a chance and a choice, and it doesn't matter what's happened. That's only going to hold a certain amount of effect on you. You can shake all of those shackles off. You truly, genuinely can. And like, if you don't believe me, look at myself, man. Like, if I can do it, you can do it. You have the same potential, and I believe in you. And it's time to start really building the support systems to get yourself out of this. Because Fort Collins, not only is it just a great place to live, the city officials, the people who have positions of power that can make a difference, they genuinely want to help. And
Oh, for sure. Like sometimes I'm like, all these people like tick me off, and like, basically just totally antisocial kind of perspective. And then like sometimes I'm like, if everybody else in the world just died, like I Am Legend, and there was nobody else, dude, that would be sad AF. Like
right.
I wouldn't make it a few months before I died. Just loneliness. So like, the people are definitely.
We need each other. We need each other,
and it's just a great. It's a great place to be, but like but the folks here are awesome. It's not really a party town. It's not. This kind of winded down from that. I think from when I can't tell because I can't always tell because I was a teenager, so I was kind of out going looking for partying, and there's
right.
people doing that my age, but now I'm a grown up. I don't know if the town's changed or me. I do a bit of both, but yeah, like yeah, that's all.
One of the things that I've noticed, and I guess I don't know what type of opinion I truly hold on it. It's just an observation. Like being in the downtown area is where you go to have fun.
Yeah.
That's what it's designed to be.
Yeah.
A place of communion and a place of fun. And there are certain people who have earned the right to have fun. And like and I don't know if you had the chance to watch that video that I shared with you about the Admiral McRaven speech at University of Texas. If you need something that's going to fire you up in the morning, that
Admiral
video,
McRaven.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
So, but what do you mean about people earn the right to have fun?
Well,
Doesn't everybody
when you wake
have
up,
the right?
when you wake up, start your day with an accomplished task. Because once you start your day with an accomplished task, it builds momentum to do more. And do you think that you should eat donuts all day and not try to, do a couple sit-ups, to earn the right to eat those donuts? Or
Right.
it's just a scale, and that's all I'm saying is there's a scale to it, you know? I'm not saying if you're down and out, you don't deserve to have
absolutely.
fun.
Like yesterday, not to brag, but these, I don't know if I already told you, but the ladies at one of the stores let me clean the bathrooms in there, and they gave me $40, and I did a really good job. And after that, like, dude, for like the whole afternoon, I went and got a piece of pizza and then went to Illegal Pete's and then, but I just felt like better. Like
Yeah.
I felt like I missed from 11 to about 1 o'clock. I only wanted to take an hour, but it took about around 90 minutes or so because I did a really good job. And then after that, it was like almost the afternoon, and I had done something. I was done. I was kind of sweated, but then it dried out, and I felt like this is all right. Like,
Right.
and like, yeah, you know, didn't. It's not that. Didn't even have to think for a moment about the person I asked for the money, which I do, and that can be kind of strange. You're like, great, I made this money from panhandling, and now I'm sitting here fretting about for the next 5 minutes. This my last conversation partner. The whole conversation was, "Can you please spare anything?" Sure, here you go. And there I am thinking about it.
Right.
So I do feel a little guilty sometimes because there's other people who are more needy and the money would go to other things, but it's not that I feel guilty for asking for somebody for money. Like sometimes, like if I notice that they're handicapped and I accidentally ask them, then I'll feel guilty. Or if I'm like, oh, this person just yelled at me because they're poor themselves, then I'll feel guilty. But overall, like I just I'm trying. Yeah, I lost
Every
my train of thought.
person,
Yeah.
every person has this inner voice within their head. You can call it your inner child, you can call it your conscious, your self-conscious. Everyone has this inner voice. And a lot of people, through growing up and just kind of disconnecting from their inner selves, they lose sight, or they lose the ability to kind of hear that inner voice. And that's where, in my opinion, a lot of this disconnect between our community comes.
And
But
that's
you
why-
you still have that inner voice. You
Yeah,
have that, and
why
that's
it's
you
like
need to
good
hold
be
on to that.
Bored and like shitty and an addict rather than, you know, for me, I'm kind of an addict concerning cannabis. You know, had better things to spend my money on. I really don't want to admit it, but I actually might be able to afford to live inside if I didn't smoke pot. You know, I'd probably spend about $20 a day on marijuana.
And
I know that's a lot. I
and
know.
wouldn't it feel better being
So-
able to do it in your own home in the privacy?
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like how great that would make you feel. I mean, just the little bit of self-worth that you felt from being able to accomplish a task for another person and being able to earn an income without actually feeling like you're in a state of desperation. Just imagine 10xing that, you know? And like we're all struggling, so it's not like you're not going to free yourself from struggle. That's just life. You got to learn to find the meaning in the suffering. That's the key, is finding the meaning in the suffering, which is
at
thank
this
God
point, I
that
feel
I
like-
have. Thank God I've been able to find that meaning in the suffering, because that's what's giving me the source of strength to continue on. You know?
very good. So that's amazing.
So
And I just wanted to say,
yeah, go ahead.
resorting to criminality, that's like what awaits me pretty much right when I give up begging. And so one time, you know, I told my friends I'm not going to panhandle. It's my resolution not to panhandle anymore. And basically the next few days I was just really broke and miserable and realized like, okay, I better get a job. Well, just stopping panhandling ain't going to work for me. I need to get a different income because what actually did happening is I was at that spot for about 8 months, and then I moved on, and because they all knew me there. And then my New Year's resolution was, and it was hard because I didn't know where else to go to sit and beg for money. So I walked up and I would walk past it and be like, I don't care if I'm gonna go sit in the library and stare at paint. I don't care if I'm gonna go do handstands at McDonald's, anything but sit here. I was like, my brain was just so tied into having that day that that was my spot to sit. And
Right.
it's better to be bored and you know, evil inside rather than going and doing that and following that, because you know you lose that part of yourself for good. Like, you know, people who are around here shoplifting and stuff, you know, I've seen it time and again. Like, you're shoplifting now, tomorrow you're breaking into cars, and then
Right.
after that I'll see you in 5 years and you'll be much older and you'll be a convicted felon. And it's all a slippery slope, and it all starts with one thing, you know. So like, you know, just taking a cup of coffee from the gas station and stealing it, you know, that's a serious crime. And you know, they want to act like it's not some of my peers, and you know, maybe even people who work there and stuff, but like it's the
It adds
coffee
up.
and stealing that. You know, probably every person who walked into the gas station could leave with a free coffee every day that ever opened, and they would still thrive. I'm not meaning stealing a cup of coffee is a crime. I'm saying what it leads to for yourself,
Right.
you know, can be,
And you ought to
and it absolutely will be just detrimental all the way downhill.
you ought to applaud yourself for recognizing that.
Thanks.
I
Steve.
mean, it's really like you're still a person of honor. You're still a person of morals. It's just you felt like you were abandoned, and I'm not going to try to put words in your mouth by saying that. It's just my viewpoint, and that's
No,
not just you. It's
I've said that out loud.
a
Yeah,
lot of
I've-
people
to myself.
in the
Yes,
community. They
just
feel
that-
as if
that's
they've been abandoned,
abandoned.
and like you're not abandoned. You have outlets. You have resources, and so like I said, we're going to focus on solutions. We've established a pretty good baseline of where you're at, and I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to your circumstances. What we really want to do now is start, and this is going to be a journey. So this isn't something that I expect if 2 or 3 weeks down the road we see even the slightest sign of change. It's going to take time, but it's all on you to determine the accelerator. But I do want, because I mean, I've started to look around, so I'm actually can say this with confidence. There are resources. So what I'd like, I mean, have you thought of, have you ever donated plasma, blood plasma?
Yeah, the thing is, see, my own brother died of a tainted blood transfusion, so I absolutely followed the guidelines concerning donating plasma.
Right.
And once I found myself ineligible, I actually never went back. So it's been about 15 years since I
Okay.
did that.
So have you been permanently deferred?
No, I'm not deferred, but like the thing is, well, I'm gonna say it like it. I take pride in it. It was my decision because there's other folks in there. I'm like, take a look in the mirror.
Right,
Does it
right,
look
right.
Like you should be donating blood, but me, I read the rules and I don't qualify no more, so I don't donate plasma.
Okay, and we can talk more off camera because we do have a confidentiality. You know, what we speak on recording obviously will be published, but there are certain aspects. Full disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a tax professional, I am not a clinical psychologist. I'm just a person who has been through the experiences and found a way to get myself out of it, and I'm just trying to give a hand out to others. So there are certain things that we won't share on camera. And we can talk in more detail about that because if there are ways to have a mailing address. So putting aside the ineligibility, that is a very first easy step of putting $115 in your pocket every single week. You know, so we'll talk more about that off camera, but we want to also establish just more solutions as far as like what type of passions do you have that can translate into going to a job that you're not going to be miserable around. Because I know, and this is me speaking personally, because there's a lot of jobs that I have taken and then by lunchtime I leave and I never show back up. I mean, I've done that a couple handfuls of times in my life. So as we continue on this journey, we want to start thinking in that sense, because that is going to be the quickest way for you to start to regain confidence in yourself. So do you mind just sharing, aside Port Techlandia and a couple other aspirations that you have for businesses down the future, immediately short term, what do you think you could stomach?
Um, as James, I was listening to you. I just get distracted in my focus sometimes. But are you asking me what kind of help I need right now?
Well, yes, but also focusing on what type of interest do you have?
That's what you said.
What type of interest?
Like, well, you know, I like talking to people. I like doing physical work. I mean, not forever, but as long as it pays a good amount, which it don't. So, like, I guess not. But, like, you know, just like if I could work in a restaurant, that'd be great. But, like, I don't want to work construction anymore.
Right.
Like,
You did HVAC for a while, right?
yeah. And that's like my interests are.
But you mentioned a restaurant, and like and it obviously, you know, no one wants to be like Tony Montana starting as the dishwasher, but if it's something that you could do for 4 hours a night, and you know that you're not only going to be out of the elements for a good portion of the
If
night.
it could be, I
Yeah.
guess next time I get a job, I need to, like I feel like when you go in for an interview, there's like zero bargaining. It's just the part where you say like everything, and not to like in all the HVAC jobs, there's like a sign-on bonus, and like I've never ever even mentioned it, nor ever gotten one, because what am I getting? Like I'm vying for a job. I can't tell you like, oh, by the way, you said you'd give me $1,000. I mean, you have two candidates. They present both the same, both qualified, and one asks for $1,000. Who are you gonna hire?
Don't think about it like that. Don't think about it like that. If they offer something and you earn whatever they're offering, gladly accept it.
I just feel like I couldn't bring it up in the interview, so there's no contract when I got the job, and therefore I never got no bonus at all. Like, but, other than that, like, I just, need to be more assertive when I go in for a job next time to say, because I often feel like it does start like that. They'll be like, you'll be here for 20 to 24 hours a week, and then they find out, okay, he's kind of smart and he works pretty hard, and then you can come in, and we scheduled you for this day. It's like, and before I know it, I'm working like 50 hours a week. Not that that's a terrible thing, it's a lot of money, but also like I've been homeless. Like, it's not.
You have other priorities besides just working for another person.
Dude, and it feels like,
Yeah.
at that, like, literally, like, and I don't have no money to show for it.
You feel like you're not tending to yourself. And
yeah, I can't work that much. Like, if it'd be good to work like 3 12s and then 4 12s, like that would be 4 days off, and then 3 days off would be awesome.
Right.
I don't know what my problem is getting a job. I just feel like it's all just fuckery, and like I don't want to have a bad attitude on the show, James. I just don't want my coworkers being mean to me. I don't want to play this ass kissing game anymore. I don't want, like, rain, snow, or shine, whether or not you're sick. Like, most of the days I can go there, and that's fine. It's the days that I don't want to go and have to that make me feel like I hate this, So you go, and then like, what, like.
You know what I absolutely hate? Going to the gym and lifting weights.
Yeah,
I absolutely hate it. It is the worst part of my day, but I have in the last year forced myself to do it. And
I like that's what. Go on.
And it sucks, man. It sucks, but when
Probably.
you get on the other end of it,
Yeah.
and
dude.
you feel a little swole, and you
yeah.
feel like you got a little bit of a chest, dog,
Yeah.
it changes your entire perception of yourself. And just, you have to look at work as an 8-hour vacation from the shit you got going on in your life. For 8 hours, you get to earn money and not think about what you got going on. And some days it might be a little hard. And if you have emotional issues that truly need to be addressed, your employer has an obligation to accommodate you for that. You just have to know how to delicately put it to themselves, and you have to take responsibility in handling your own emotions. Just, everybody has bad days. It's how you react to your bad days, And so that's what we want to work on. We don't want to work on, all right, these next whatever X amount of days or weeks or whatever, let's get Ryan a job. We need to work on, as we see each other, as we'll continue to see each other out in the streets and not just on the show, we need to continue having these conversations. If you're having a bad day, go onto the page and just know that there is a support system right there. And then you have all of these other city officials that are, they are scrambling to put programs together because they want to help.
Sometimes I'll like wave at the cops and they'll stop and get out and talk to me. Just a couple of them. I don't know all the police. Other than that, sometimes there's always the suicide lifeline.
Right.
So that works too.
Have you ever dialed into that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Good. How does that work?
Somebody answers and they're just like real understanding, because they're probably thinking you're about to do something crazy, so they're always willing to listen to you and like take your time and know your name, and like just like there wasn't, like, I kept expecting them to hang up on me a few times because I yelled a few times, but that's not like they can just I don't know if they're allowed to. But I'm saying it's great because
And that number's
they'll at least
988, right?
yeah. So they'll at least take the time to like they'll take all their time with you, and what they're actually doing is trying to take up as much time as they can so that you don't do it
Let
right
the
there.
moment pass.
Yeah,
It's
so
just a moment of time, man.
it's
It's
hard
just
to
a
remember.
moment of time.
It's like they say the urge to kill yourself lasts about 45 minutes, but it's it can seem like an hour and a half or
Of
2
course,
hours.
of course.
But for me, luckily, I'm 36 now. I'm not saying I'm totally like reconciled my mental illness, but I'm saying now I can kind of look around and be like, kind of remember some really good people, some really good friends I had, and be like, okay, I need to go get up and get some food for me.
Yeah.
Like, do I need a cigarette? Do I need to smoke pot? I feel like, could I eat? I'm like, I don't have an, I bet I could eat, and then all the time I'll go get food, and then I just feel a lot better after that. It's that's good. So
We're creatures of habit, we're creatures of comfort, and we have these impulses. And the biggest thing that I can impart on you is learning to identify your impulses, learning to identify the type of feelings you have, know when you're starting to enter into a test, and take that test seriously. And I truly want to applaud you for dialing into 988. And to any of our viewers, if you are ever struggling with mental health or the feeling of self-harm, please take a moment and dial into 988 and speak with somebody, please. There are outlets for you.
Yeah, like it's it's good.
So I don't want to take too much more of your time. We got some rain coming in. So I want to thank you for just joining me. We're going to continue to touch base, not just on the show. I'd love to invite you back. And then also just we're going to continue to have conversations when we see each other, because really where it starts is, I wanted to learn your name. I wanted to learn a little bit of the struggles that you're facing. I wanted to, be able to share my experiences with you so that you can feel a sense of relation, because I know personally is you feel like you're just out here by yourself, and you're not. You don't have to be out here by yourself. So as we continue to grow along this journey, just keep all of that in mind. Join the page. Guys, I appreciate you all just joining us. I'm going to let Ryan get back on this day. Do you have any closing remarks that you just want to say?
Like I know the theme was challenge. I hope we stuck to that, and life is really challenging, and just I feel a bit overwhelmed now. No, I'm trying to like say what I'm thinking here, James.
Take your time.
I don't know exactly what my challenge is. So that's like, my challenge is to
be able to identify these tests in the moment.
It's one thing or the other, and I feel like on the edge, like emotionally, and I feel like blaming and this and that, and I guess, the challenge for me is to not get too comfortable with this, because if you've seen my day, some people, I'd be like, I am so miserable, I'd be embarrassed. I would be like, dude, my grandma would weep, and violence, drug use, things inside myself, loneliness,
Right.
cold,
Yeah.
no shelter. So being comfortable with that, it can happen, but it's not a comfortable day at all. So the challenge for me is to just ignore all the negativity, just to ignore the noise.
Yeah.
That's what my buddy Brian says to me, and I hope he watches this, because I think about it all the time. Because he was actually a basketball coach, and he tells me ignore the noise, because he's a really good friend of mine, and because you'll be telling him about something bad that happened to you, and he'll say ignore the noise.
Right.
And it's like, I really like that, because I can't make I'm gonna say when you're making a basket, dude, from the free throw line, I can't make it that good. From the 3-point line, I'm actually a little bit better, I think, because you probably don't need to have so much arc. So I noticed that, but like even that when nobody's talking, but I can't imagine doing it when people are counting on you, when your coach is stressing on you,
Right.
when all the whole crowd wants you to freaking fail. They're probably somebody you don't even know acting like they're gonna throw something at you. I don't
Right.
know how bad it is. I'm at the NBA games. I have seen they try to make a basket and the whole crowd behind them tries to create this distraction. I'm like, you made it. Like seriously, like
Yeah.
ignoring that noise. On even on a small level or on something major like that. Just
Well,
learning to be, be yourself is good, and
let's end it on that. Let's ignore the noise, Ryan.
okay.
All right? Can you make that promise to me? As we move forward, you're going to just work harder towards ignoring the noise.
Yeah.
And if you feel that the noise is getting too loud, you'll just put your headphones on. You'll zone out to something that's going to be constructive. And if you ever need to reach out, don't hesitate to reach out, okay?
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to join with me and allowing me to do this first episode on a second take. We'll get this all edited, and it's really been a pleasure to sit and talk with you.
It's my pleasure too.
Thanks so much. And thank you guys for everyone who's going to be joining in. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow, and spread the word that we can challenge, inspire, and mentor others who are struggling to make their lives better. Thank you.